G'day, Michael. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How's your day going?
Thanks for having me. It's going pretty well. Busy, like we all are for the most part, but can't complain.
That's fair enough. Thanks for agreeing to be on the show. You're someone that I've wanted to talk to for a little while since becoming aware of the photo app. For those that don't know what that is and how that fits into social media, etc., why don't you give us a quick spiel on what photo app actually is and how it works?
Yeah, we are just a small team essentially. We're bootstrapping it. I think a lot of us have become frustrated with Instagram through the years for various reasons, here or there. It's something that's for me, I've been thinking about for several years, but we've been building it for 3 years now, and we just went public where it's available for everybody worldwide. And at the end of February 2025, we still have, I feel like, a long way to go for where we want to be. But it's a little bit of like people wishing they had the original Instagram back in some sense, except it's a little more modern, I would say, than that. But trying to rewind the clock a little bit into like Instagram pre-meta, where it's just photos only. There's no videos. You see who you follow, and it's chronological, and it's pretty simple and straightforward from that sense. Yeah, so we're starting at that point, and then we're going to build it moving forward. We have a lot of future ideas and things we want to grow over the next decade. But that's our starting point, essentially, is pre-meta. And then what if they could build it over again? What would they do different? And that's where we're trying to take over from there.
Sure. I'm quite keen on understanding the why behind photo, and you mentioned that everyone's a little bit frustrated with the way that Instagram has gone and its shift towards video and basically becoming essentially a TikTok competitor more than anything. And I guess part of that frustration for many people is shown out in the number of still images that you see in Instagram. Is that
Yeah.
the main driver, or are there other things as well that you've come across in your social media experience and said, okay, these are the things that we'd really like to see in our app?
Yeah, I think, gosh, it's like there's so many levels, and it's like an onion that you're like peeling back the layers to all these different things. Instagram, I was like never 100% satisfied with Instagram. I was a little late. I was not an early adopter of it. I came in later than probably most people. And, but even then, I wasn't necessarily in love with the social media experience. It was definitely a lot better at a certain point. And then once they started introducing the algorithms, like in 2016, that was like that had some consequences tied to it. And then 2, 3 years later, TikTok comes around, and there's Snapchat. And so Instagram just it basically didn't really have an opinion on what they wanted to build. They just kept like whatever other people built at work, they just kept stealing it. And they created this like Frankenstein thing at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like outside of it, though, their clear vision is they just need to sell ads and keep people's attention. That's really their only unique proposition. And I feel like a lot of people don't really find is that like useful for them as a user. We've all kind of got trapped there in a sense because everybody's there. And so people, I feel like we just begrudgingly stay there because that's where everybody is, but nobody likes being there, but we stay there anyway. So it feels like this really weird abusive relationship thing that we all have with it.
Oh,
Yes, I always felt like there should be a place that was like just really dedicated to photos, images. It just that is so hard to build, let alone like anything for video and sound and audio and all these other components. And how people engage with photos and images and how they search for them is different than how they would with a video in a certain sense. And so we really want to just build a place that's just new home, that's just 100% dedicated, that's photocentric, and it really tries to tackle all the challenges that are just around sharing photos online. I still feel like most people, photos are the easiest thing to share, the easiest thing to connect with. Text, I guess, is maybe a little easier, but not everybody really wants to be a video editor. And so social media has become this kind of passive thing where people are just consuming at this point, and it's like short form entertainment, but they're not really social. Like we've lost the social and social media. People aren't commenting as less. You don't really see who you follow as much. And you just watch a video and scroll and watch it. And so there's not a lot of thought put into it. Like it doesn't really encourage deep thinking in a lot of sense. It's like sugar in a certain sense. And so I think one of the beautiful things of photography is if you're going to consume it properly, it does force you to slow down
Yeah.
and look and see, just like the practice of photography does. It forces you to like actually observe the world. And there's this slowness and meditative quality and attention in a good way, not like attention stealing that I feel like Instagram or these other places do, that I feel is beneficial for humans and their mental health and just different things like that. And so we want to, yeah, just encourage that, bring that back in a sense, connect people through images in a lot of different ways. So I could probably go on for hours, but that's a nutshell of that.
Plenty of time. But I guess looking a little bit deeper, you mentioned there that slowing down the time that people should be taking. I guess it is very difficult to stop that doom scrolling behavior once it starts. Is there anything specific in photo that you think does that other than just saying, okay, all you're going to see is still images, or is there more to
Right.
it than that?
Yeah, we just introduced portfolios, which that's hopefully something that we're forcing users to slow down on because it is a unique user experience. When you do click into a portfolio, you're taken out of the main feed and into almost like a book type format or a slideshow type format, basically like a really large carousel to where there's nothing else on the screen. There's nothing with the feed. It's just you're in that person's portfolio and that body of work. And so we're hoping that will almost retrain people in a sense. So we're really trying to find that balance of there's so many photos get even uploaded to Photo, even though we're still like a very small company. There's still so many images being uploaded that a person isn't going to be able to see all of them in a single day. But our hope is that whatever you do see that day, it is like a beautiful experience. And you don't need to see every image ever created, but if you can find some inspiration from the people that you're actually following and that you want to engage with and keep track of them, then over time it will inspire you, encourage you to maybe pick up the camera, think of something, look at the world as slightly different. Portfolios is our attempt to do that right now. We have some other features in the future that are around the curation side of things that we're hoping people will, by collecting images and curating on their own, it kind of fosters that kind of slowness to really look, consider, do I want to add this to this thing that I'm building over here or not, stuff. And so just incentive structures are very important. And so we are trying to do ad-free model because just the distractions of ads is a lot. And we don't want to be incentivized to serve advertisers more than we are our users. So we're really here just to try to build the best user experience possible. And if we can do that, the hope is that the financial stuff will take care of itself from just our actual user base.
Okay.
But yeah, so we don't have audio or anything right now. We've discussed some interesting ideas around audio, but such like once you open that door, it's tricky. But
Yeah.
there is ways I think that a still image and audio can be interesting, and not in terms of pop music, the way that like Instagram is, but more if it's a portrait, but if you have some audio of the person that you took the portrait of, like a voiceover from that person, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Different things like that. Or if it's a picture of a stream or there's birds, that if you have some audio while we were out photographing of the actual environment, had that in there. So more concepts around original audio, environmental audio, and not necessarily
as opposed to people just uploading the pop song, attaching the pop song and so forth.
Yeah, like having Red Hot Chili Peppers playing while you're looking at some random picture. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense necessarily.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
You've raised a couple of things there that I want to talk about. I'm going to come back to the thing about financials and how that works, because I'm sure people are interested. Okay, no ads. How does the financials work? But we'll come back to that. Before we get into that, I'm interested in what as photography's place in society and where its future is going. This is a question I ask a lot of the people that join the podcast, the photographers who are actually doing the work. I'm really interested in how you see photography. Obviously, it's a big part of what photo app
Mm.
is, and
Yeah.
therefore you see it as important. I want to hear from you what that means to you. What is photography to you?
Yeah. Okay. So do you want me to answer as the photography, is it to me, or what is it? Where do I see going in the future? Because I feel like those are two
Let's start
questions.
with there on what it is to
Yeah.
you, and then we can talk about
Okay.
what it is in society. Then we can talk about what its future is.
Okay. Sure. For me personally, on a micro level, it's, yeah, it's something that, like I said, it's a meditative thing. I feel like it's something of reflection that I look back on. It's a lot of it's tied to memory and kind of the human experience in a lot of ways. I think we all have had, I think it's a very human instinct to be in a moment and want to take a photograph so you can remember it, or even just to record your existence in some way, or to record your family's existence, or these milestone moments you have, or if you're on vacation, or I don't know. There's just this innate thing I think that we all have of we want to capture these moments or record them so we can look back on them later. And that for me, it's just photography is just a very extremely powerful extension of the human experience. I think a lot of times we take it for granted because there's so many images and photos. We're just bombarded with them all the time. But there's just some sort of mystery about them for me that like I am fascinated with, that I am still trying to like figure out why I'm so attracted to them. Not even to say from like the making of them all the time, but just looking at them and consuming them and seeing what other people are doing. I got my degree in photography from started in the late 90s. So I've been around it for almost 30 years. And then 11 years ago, I started a print lab, and I still own that and operate that on a daily basis. And just the value of printing your work and seeing what other photographers are making and what it's important for the families or clients that they're working with. There's just a lot of value in photographs in general that people appreciate on a lot of levels. Sometimes it's hard for them to acknowledge it, but it's, I don't know. We always have these moments, or a lot of times I used to shoot weddings and you would do family portraits and things. And then sometimes very often I would get a phone call like 2 years later if somebody passed away, and they always wanted, they were like, you're the last person to photograph that person. So we really want those photos. And so moments like that, it just hits you like a ton of bricks of, okay, me being there was extremely important and valuable. Whether it's your own family member who's been to a funeral and seen slideshows of like their whole life history. This happens with celebrities a lot of times when they pass away. There's just this kind of retrospective of their life. And it's just always mostly done through photos more than the video aspect, which I find very interesting. So there's something about the still image and the memory psychologically that our brains like just hook into that I love. So I feel like even though if we spin off into some of these other topics, with AI and stuff, I feel like people maybe feel threatened that certain aspects of photography are going to go away. I still feel that, I don't know, photography is so deep in the human experience that people are always going to be making photographs of even just for personal reasons. It's the closest thing we have. Video's probably the closest, but it's the bar to make it is so high, and there's just something mysterious about a still image, whereas a viewer, it allows you to ask questions of what's going on in a scene and to really contemplate a scene, and it doesn't give you all the answers, which I love, where video tends to give you most of the answers through the narrative and through the audio and everything. It's guiding you from point A to point B. Or an image is just a photo. It gives you some clues essentially, but you're trying to almost unravel the mystery in a certain sense. People interpret them different ways. They see different things in them. And so it's just there's just never ending. And so it's fascinating. And so I think that's what keeps us as humans coming back to the medium. It's very accessible. I think everybody, pretty much now too, I think everybody makes photographs on one level or another. Obviously there's professionals, but just anybody that has an iPhone or an Android or whatever, like we all have phones in our pockets and we're taking pictures of something for some reason or another. So it's a unique art form or medium that everybody engages with. And even though video is something we consume a lot, most people don't make films. Sometimes they'll take video, but they don't really edit them and they don't think that way. But a photo is just, you can take it and text it to somebody. There's just some sort of ubiquity, there's a common ground that it just, all of humanity for the most part these days, it touches. And so I don't know. I feel like it's going to be around for a really long time. It might shift or change. I think it's expanding a lot of ways, but humans really enjoy it. And I don't feel threatened that it's going to be gone and deleted from.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. What about where you see it going in the future? What sort of things are you seeing on the horizon that threaten it, may be part of its future? How do you see photography's future going forward?
Yeah. Gosh, I think there's a lot of things we could talk about. I think there's going to be I think there's a lot of challenges ahead with photography and photographs in general that need to be solved. Some of these are technical challenges, specifically around mistrust. I feel like images and photos could be just not as trusted anymore. If you see something online in general,
photo manipulation's been around since the beginning of photography, so.
Yeah, I just think AI is taking it to another level.
And it's much more accessible. It used to be
Yeah.
a technical process. If you, say, wanted to create a photo montage or an image that combined multiple images,
Yeah.
it took a certain amount of skill to be able to do that and do that convincingly. With AI,
Right.
as you say, that's a few words with the keyboard and away you go.
Yeah, so I think there's a challenge there. I feel like it's solvable in a lot of ways. I just think there's going to need to be some other tech companies. Hopefully, eventually, we can play a role if we get to a really strong financial position where people basically just need to be able to trust what they see and know what they're looking at. And I feel like everybody deserves that. So if it's something that's I'm almost thinking of it as like percentages or just a transparency type thing. Adobe's trying to do some of this with their content authenticity initiative and things like that. But you see where the areas are manipulated. You see where if it's 100% AI or if it's 61% AI and like what those areas are. So there just needs to be some transparency in the metadata of like how things are created, things like that. So I think that's a challenge that we have coming up for photographs. I think there's going to be challenges for professional photographers in a lot of ways just because of AI and things like that. And so there may not be as many professional photographers having a career of it that are like feeding their family necessarily through it. But I feel like people are still going to be making photographs. If it may just become more on the hobby side or something that's more private or personal. But I still think the amount of images that people make and the amount of photographs people take is still going to be very high.
Yeah.
And people still want to be able to share their photos with friends, family, colleagues. I don't think that's going away. I just don't think they have a great place to do that now, which is part of the reason what we're building and how social media is shifting. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of balls in the air a bit. And photography could become something that's a little more private but you're still making them, but you don't share it with the entire world. You could share it with like more of a closed circle of people, especially if they're family photos. It could be 8 people that you share it with versus 8 billion that like you were used to with Instagram 2012 or whatever. I think some of the behaviors of how we engage with it might shift us a little bit, but I don't have any doubts that we'll still be making them and taking them and kind of messing around with the technology. I think.
Do you think there'd be more value, I guess, in authentic photography as opposed to AI?
Yeah, I think, so stuff like that happens weird with technology. The big tech sometimes comes in with stuff and there's a big push for things and there's always the anti-side, the other side of the coin. I think it's weird. For me, I try to pay attention a lot to the younger generation now of people. Like I have kids, they're 18 and I try to pay attention to just 18 to 25. Like how do they engage with technology? And there's just been a huge trend the past couple of years where stuff is very like lo-fi. They don't trust things that are very polished looking.
Yeah.
The more polished something is, the more they distrust it and they don't want to like engage with it. So there's very much where they want something pretty raw, unfiltered, unedited. They've gravitated towards film photography and some of these analog processes because they've just grown up so digital that they're craving a physical experience in ways to express themselves. They don't share as much broadly, broadcast globally. The younger generation, it's more private, like closed chat sharing, where it's just them and their friends. So they're still sharing, but it's just not for everybody.
Yeah, it's more of a closed circle than a
Yeah.
broadcast to everybody in the world and shouting into the.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just a lot of weird stuff where you have like certain people that are trying to be influencers and they're trying to blast stuff to everybody all over the world. And then you have other people they're keeping their life private. They're not on social as much. They might consume it, but they're not like participating and making it and posting it themselves as often. So we're in this really weird, undefined place and things are like splintering and or expanding. I don't know, it depends on how people envision it, but there's a lot of questions and there's not a lot of like clarity. I think we're coming out of how something was for 10 or 15 years and it's like it's being shattered. We have no idea where we're going to go in the future. People are pretty bad about predicting things. Even just a few years ago, like crypto and people selling like digital art online and that there's still people doing that, but it's the bubble has popped for even that. And the hype on that was like crazy
It
big.
doesn't seem to be as big a bigger trend towards it as there was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think people are starting to really doubt are we peaking on AI now, or is this like the best it's going to be for a long time? So is it plateauing? I don't know. So it's hard to say for sure, but yeah, like I said, I don't really doubt people are going to be engaging with images in one way or another.
Absolutely. Now, we did touch on the financial side of things. Explain how that works and how you see the photo app being monetized without advertising, because I think a lot of people will be looking at that going, oh, how are you going to do it?
Yeah. So we're trying to avoid ads at all costs. That's the last resort. If we add ads to photo, it's just because everything else has completely failed. So that's like our third parachute or whatever. But what we're trying to do is actually not totally groundbreaking, at least how I see it. We're doing a free tier, right? So people can use photo for free. So there's a zero barrier for entry. Anybody can get on, download it, start posting. And so what we're going to be doing though is we're going to be building in, which we just released our first one of the portfolios, but these kind of pro features for, I guess, our power users or people that are a little more professional or like serious hobbyists or just people that have a little more of a business they want to run with photo, or they see value in building an audience there, different things like that, to where they're willing to pay a subscription for access to some of these other features. And these are all features that people are paying for already. So we're just going to build them instead of you having to pay for a service on all these other points on the internet and then try to funnel that all into your social media. We're just going to try to build those just directly into the app itself. And these are features that people are used to paying for already. So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel in that sense. We're just moving it inside the app. So Portfolios is one, which is almost like a mini website. So a lot of people pay for a website already. So you can put your best work directly on your profile. And so people don't have to like click off of and leave photo and go to your Squarespace site or your Wix site or whatever. They can just see it right there while they're on your profile and just see this amazing project you did 10 years ago. And just experience there. And we're desktop is obviously big important, our browser version. We eventually want to make this like big, beautiful portfolio where it feels like your website, essentially. Things like having a shop on there, like people pay for Shopify and things like that. But if like we can allow print sales or book sales or really just anything people would want to sell just directly on your profile, that would make sense. And these are all things that we envision where you're paying just like a pro membership. And then as we build the features, you automatically just get access to them, and we're not charging separate like for each individual feature. Essentially, post scheduler, there's people that pay for a way to schedule your posts across social media, and so that's something we'll probably build. And there's things like Patreon or Substack. People have paywalling some of their content. I could see us down the road, not anytime soon. But as photo becomes more mass adopted and you can really build a serious audience on photo, we could see that having like a paid area of your photo
Okay.
profile essentially, where you could put education or certain photos or whatever you'd want to put behind there, articles, if you want to do a mix of photos and text, things like that.
Right.
Something both like a newspaper or photojournalists or something where they could be supported as a creator. So we want to incorporate all these things that have a financial component in it over time. But if you just want to get on there, follow your friends and post some photos, like that would be free. We don't want to create any friction for that. It's more of the bigger features that we would want to pay for.
I want to move on to the process of both coming up with what you were going to do with photo and the process of actually rolling it all out. I know you've mentioned it's a very small team at the moment. Are there plans to expand and speed up delivery of some of these items, or are you just going to take a very slow and steady pace with the small team and keep things tight?
Yeah, our philosophy around that is similar, where we're not wanting to take investment money. That's a natural progress of startups, obviously, is get investors, get their $10 million, and then you like expand your team, and then you can build really fast, which is great. And that's why people do it. But there's just long term, there's just some downsides to that we feel we don't want to compromise on. So
I
there's
mean, the
either you're going to
mindset of the
feel,
investor in the first place.
yeah,
He wants his
yeah.
money back.
Yeah. So you're going to either feel the friction and pain on the front end, or you're going to feel it on the back end later.
Good.
So as humans, everybody wants their both. We want like it fast and no problems later, but it's just not the world we live in. So everything's a trade-off.
Yep.
So right now we're bootstrapping it. So it's just me. I have a co-founder. He's written all the code for it. And we have a designer we've been working with part-time. That's like a UX designer. We've had enough financial support from the community around photo, and we've been 100% funded, and we continue to be 100% funded just from the community itself, which has been just absolutely amazing. And we're getting to the point where we're starting to get enough financial support now that we're looking to hire, like we just interviewed, and we're getting a second developer that we're going to be doing some tests with over the next month to see how he does and try to onboard him. So we want to expand the team as our finances grow from the community. And so it means we're going to be slow developing, at least for now. We'll speed it up as our financial support speeds up, essentially, but we're not sacrificing having to pay back a bunch of investors in 5 to 10 years. We're not sacrificing having to go up and to the right in terms of the growth curve financially for shareholders, because they never want to see a down year. And we're not sacrificing giving up control of the company and like our vision for it, which is one of the things with investors is it's great you get the money, but then they're basically buying a percentage of your company, and then you start this hamster wheel of needing to raise more and more over time because you need to either go public or you need to sell your company to another company. So all those investors get their money back.
Yep.
So you get all these other compromises and potential pitfalls that happen 5 or 10 years down the road, or they just kick you out of your own company because they just don't like the direction. The board will just vote you out essentially. So you lose control. So we're trying to avoid all of that. So it just means we're a little slow at first. So people need to be a little bit patient with us as we go. But long term, it will provide a lot more stability and a lot more of a unique experience because we can just build it just for the community and the users and not have to worry about keeping the board happy and like paying back a bunch of money later.
Sure. I guess it also, as you said, maintains control in your hands, and you can both direct the way the company goes, but also how the app is developed and what features are prioritized over others. Because, as you say, you bring in the investors and they're going to have their own opinions about what should be done, and then you start having arguments internally, which doesn't bode well for the future.
Yeah. If you bring in investors, you're going to be pushing for ads pretty quickly. So, and then we're back to Instagram again. We don't want that. That's the whole point. Yeah.
So in terms of setting goals for photo and where it's going, what's that process look like? You obviously have a bunch of ideas out there. How do you sit down and prioritize them? What's the process look like? without
Yeah.
giving secrets away.
Sure. Yeah, this is like always something like we struggle with and wrestle with, and I think every startup does, because you get your users, which you're building it for your users, and they're super passionate and they're enjoying what you build, and they give you like really great feedback a lot of times, and
Yep.
they're like, hey, this is broken, or oh, I would love this XY feature. And so we try to listen to all of the feedback, but then we also have our vision for like where we want to go in 5 or 10 years, which other people are not aware of.
Yeah.
And so we're having to balance feedback we're getting and then also like where we want to take it in the future. And so because it's like triage, like we have so many things we want to build, but we literally can build like one thing at a time. So there's 1,000 things we would love to build into photo, but we're always asking ourselves like what's the most important thing right now that we can work on. And while a lot of people give us really great important suggestions that do 100% need to happen, we always have to make the call of saying we have to wait on that. We can't do that right now.
Yeah.
Some people don't like that answer, but we just can't do everything. So as the team grows, like we'll be able to do 2 things at once or 3 things at once or whatever, but we're just not there right now. We can just do one thing at once. That's it. Yeah. So we worked on portfolios because we thought we wanted to, that was our big thing we did over the summer because we wanted to get out. We felt we needed to be able to monetize early so that we could, if we don't have money coming in, then we're dead in the water to begin with. So that we wanted to at least get at least one thing out that has some monetization tied to it that would help us just stay afloat. And then from there, it's weighing some key features or really listening to the pain points to users. Like they may suggest a feature, but what our job is to try to figure out what the pain point is behind that feature request.
Yeah.
Their solution that they're suggesting to us may not be, we may not like that solution, or we feel like it could be solved in a different way. So they're really expressing some sort of pain or friction that they don't like.
Yeah.
And we have to decipher what ultimately they really want to feel or experience and brainstorm how we can solve that, and maybe something that's more innovative or forward thinking. Sometimes it's doing something that's been solved previously, that's 5 years ago, and sometimes that's great, but sometimes it's like we could push it forward in another way as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a wrestle. Like we have to balance, we're trying to balance like fixing bugs and making the app like smooth, but at the same time, if we just obsess over pure perfection of 0 bugs, then actually no new features ever get built because you're just always tweaking like the existing thing. So we're trying to balance, like it needs to feel good and fine. And so like right now we're going through a period of bug fixes and things because we just got done building a new feature. So we're spending like a month doing a lot of smoothing some stuff back out. And then we'll get back to building some new features again. We feel like that kind of rhythm usually is working for us, where it's fix some things, focus on a feature to fix some stuff.
Yeah.
That we just are hearing repeatedly. But we're just literally adjusting month to month. Like we have a huge list of features we want to build. And so we have a basic path of things we want to do in order. Yep. But sometimes we'll move something up in front that was all of a sudden becoming more of a problem that we're hearing more about.
Yeah. So, are there any that you can share with us that maybe not quite public yet? Is there anything that you've got there that you think's really exciting and that somebody listening to this is going to go, oh, wow, I really look forward to seeing that?
Yeah, we are going to have, so short term, I'll go short term and then into some long term stuff, but we need to right now we're working on fixing some Android issues that we're fixing. And then we're going to fix some, because we just released portfolios. Some of the users found some like little bugs in different use cases that we're fixing that. Yep. And then we're going to essentially take some feedback we got from portfolios and tweak the UX or UI a little bit in a couple areas. So that's what we're working on over the next like several weeks. Once we get that established, we really want to provide a way for people to share like their either profile or portfolio or a post outside of photo onto like Threads or Blue Sky or Facebook or whatever. So we need to tackle that from a design and a technical perspective, where it's essentially it's not the full browser version or anything, but we want to be able to people to share a link, click on it, and then it opens at least like a preview or like a read-only version of what they're trying to share. Any other engagement from there, people would need to create a photo account and download it and that kind of a thing. But at least it would allow them to share to other platforms so that can attract other users to photo, and people can kind of see what we're building and get a little bit of a sneak peek. The next like major feature, the next two major features we need to build. One is going to be called collections.
Yep.
And so that's the curation thing where people will be able to save posts or save portfolios to a collection that they define themselves.
Cool.
And I think this will be pretty huge. It's a little like Pinterest in a way. I've even seen some comments about how Pinterest has gotten really bad recently. So maybe we can like help save Pinterest. But yeah, I think people can make these collections from all sorts of things. Ideally, long term would be if you're wanting to do a collection of inspiration for like black and white street photography or something that you want to revisit over and over of other people, you can do that. Maybe if you're a photo editor and you want to have different collections of photographers you want to hire in the future, you could create a collection. Or if you're collaborating with a photo editor, maybe you could collaborate on a collection, or a creative director. I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot of things you could do with that. And it will serve also as a discovery feature too, because then people can, as the users curate the work on photo itself, you as a user could go through and look at other people's collections, and you'll discover new people and like some of the best work on photo because somebody's manually pulled it and saved it. And so you can find new people and discover new things that way. So we want to build these like core features that are like check off a lot of boxes in terms of helping with discovery and also search and just user experience and all of that. And then beyond that, we really need to get the browser version out of photo. We know that has to be built where people can view photo and experience it on a desktop or a laptop. There's so many benefits to that. The unfortunate thing is it's very hard to build. It adds another code base we have to maintain. This adds pressure for us. If somebody likes a photo on mobile, they're going to want to see that updated immediately on the browser version and getting all that synced up. So it's just a huge lift to do it right and do it well. But we acknowledge that definitely needs to be done. We'll start designing that page by page very seriously, I would say, the next few months. So anticipation of hopefully something in 2026 can happen with the browser version.
Yeah. I know there's a feature, I think it's Blue Sky has it, where you can actually create a list of users that you follow, or you can follow them, but you can add people to a list. And you can actually share that list with other people. I'd be interested to see something like that. That's just my own feedback. And you'll put that on the list somewhere, but if you haven't already got it there. But I know that from my perspective, it creates a place where people can actually find who you're interested in, as well as being able to do those collections. And what it does quite neatly is that it actually gives you the ability to create that list, publish that list, and then that becomes like a feed of those people's posts, as opposed to having to go and find that person and go to their posts. So basically, the chronological list of everything that everyone in that list posts on it. As I say, that's my tuppence worth.
No, it's a great it's a great idea, and it's one we've definitely had similar thoughts of in terms of collections is like collecting the like posts or portfolios, like collecting the images essentially, like images. Lists would be like you're curating accounts essentially. And then the concept of having feeds where you organizing the accounts you follow or taking somebody's list and like creating a feed off of it. A deal. People do this a lot. So we're trying to take inspiration not just from other photo sharing apps or in the past or anything, but just like everything. So people do this with music a lot, like how people collect and curate music and collections or like podcasts. And so we're just trying to watch and how people engage with just all sorts of media and how they organize all that stuff and then share it with others. So we're trying to look at all those mechanics from other places and not just photo sharing behaviors from the past.
That's great. Having gone through this process, what's the number one thing that you've learnt from going through that startup of photo and getting to where you are now?
Gosh, I don't know. I've learned like 100,000 things. I feel like I would say probably the number one thing I've learned is that people on the internet are more generous than what you think they are, is what I would say. Just the fact that photo has been 100% community funded from the very beginning 3 years ago, and it continues to be, makes it really unique. And I feel like it gives it a lot of special potential that other maybe technology companies haven't attempted. So that would probably be my number one. I think in general, like I struggle sometimes a lot with the internet because it can be very like mean, to be like blunt. Some of the just people say things online that are pretty just unkind and unnecessary. And so we've got a few of those kind of comments or dialogues with people since building this. But
I think that's to be expected, though.
yeah, that's the
become public, and people are going to have their opinions. And as somebody told me a long time ago, opinions are like backsides. Everyone's got some are nicer than others.
Right. Yeah. So very true. Yeah. But in general, I just feel like there's a lot more kind people in the world, I think, is what I've learned, than mean people. So I feel like I think we've all had a negative sense of maybe where we're at globally in the world right now. But in some ways, building photos like reinvigorated my belief in like humanity in a weird way. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
What is the best or worst piece of advice anyone's given you?
The worst piece of advice is always, if you don't make or build X thing, like you're going to fail. I don't feel like any one feature is necessarily that precise. Yeah. So that's always anytime that anything's tied to like an ultimatum, I tend to dismiss it like pretty quickly.
Yep.
The best advice is a lot of it is just almost trust your gut thing. Don't get too distracted by all the noise. Just trust yourself in a bit. Like,
yep,
you'll understand who is giving the really good, solid feedback that is of high value, and then anything that's just noise, just block it out and move on from it, because it's not really helping. But yeah, I think it's just trusting yourself is the best. Best advice.
Have you ever struggled to find inspiration, maybe not in the development of photo, but in your own photography at all? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, like I just stopped taking photographs, I would say. So I've morphed, I guess, more into an entrepreneur, I guess, nowadays than a photographer. I still occasionally will go through certain periods where I have my kind of photo itch that needs scratched, where I need to make something and take something. But in general, I really love just being around photographers and talking with photographers and just engaging with the industry as a whole. Gives me a lot of joy and pleasure, almost more than me actually making a good photograph that I'm proud of anymore. I almost feel like I'm moved into a role where I'm more of like trying to build a support structure for the other people that are actually out there making the work, and trying to provide a place that I can help like point to those people that are doing really good things and lift them up in a way. So I feel like that's where a lot of my value and interest in what I think about and stress about and dream about is more in that arena.
Yeah.
Not as much anymore thinking in terms of like photos and like wanting to make something. I still feel I'm a film guy, so I learned on film and darkroom, so that's still always my happy place in terms of if I had all the money in the world, I would probably have a separate building with a darkroom, and I would escape there to get away from all the noise of the world and shut the internet off. And it's almost more of an escape or a meditative place for me than anything else, because it forces you to slow down so much
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt, but it's good in a lot of ways. Anything making something with your hands. My wife does ceramics and things, and so it's like rate of failure is very high and stuff like that. But it's really about the processes where it's the beauty is in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
not necessarily the final product. That's what I would be doing. So I don't know. We'll see. So our kids, we just shipped them off to college, so we have some more free time. So maybe I'll be able to pick up the camera more often nowadays.
Yeah,
So
nice. Talk to me a bit about the photo lab and how that fits into your life and your work, etc.
yeah, I'm running two companies right now. So I'm running Photo, the social media app, and then Musea is my other company, which is a print lab. And I'm heavily invested there in terms of like my time and commitment to that place as well. Hopefully I can marry the two at some point is a long-term goal of mine, but or do exhibitions for Photo through, and we would do the printing at our lab, hopefully, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something I've just always been passionate about. When I first started in college, that's because it's darker. I'm like, you had to print to see what you
Mm.
shot. There was no scanning anything in '98. I guess there probably was a scanner, but we didn't have that at my college. So it was all darker. That just ingrained into me. A photograph is real whenever it's physically printed and you can
Mhm.
hold it in your hand. And yeah, so it's Musea does a very high-end printing, and so it's all archival inkjet, 100% cotton papers, 100% cotton mat boards,
Yep.
high-end acrylic framing, matting. We do albums, all this stuff. We try to make something that is going to last 1 to 2 centuries is the goal,
Sure.
not something that's going to fade in 10 or 20 years. So for us, it's all archival, quality over quantity, that kind of a thing. So,
Yeah, sure.
but yeah, it's great. It has its own challenges. It's a totally separate thing. It's a very hard business to run in a lot of senses. It's a much more human business in terms of I have staff, I have employees, and they have to be trained and have a certain level of skill and craftsmanship and
Yeah. Yeah.
maintain the level that we need to maintain. But it's very physical. It's all done, even though it's digitally printed. There's just a lot of those printers don't always do it right in terms of scratching the paper, or if the paper is flawed or scratched or scuffed, or there's an ink smudge, or there's just a lot of human eyeballs that have to still be on the prints to make sure they're up to standard before it gets shipped out.
Yeah, it's something I certainly concur with you on, is that it's not finished until it's printed, an image. And even though I post a lot of stuff that I never print or never really print on social media, a lot of what I do is do test prints and say, okay, this works out. Also print quite a lot of books. So for me, if it's not printed, it's not really a finished image. And I know from my own experience in printing, particularly when you start to look at larger formats and whatever, you really have a good relationship with your printer to get a good result. And I think what you were saying there about it being a very human business is very true, because that relationship with the photographers from your guys, the relationship within the team looking at the quality and all of those aspects is a massive deal for getting a good result.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 100%. Yeah. Yeah, we only want to do it one way, and it's very personal. And so we definitely feel like we're a partner with photographers in terms of bringing their vision to life.
Yeah.
A lot of photographers we work with are like newer to printing, and so they have a lot of anxiety and like stress to it sometimes.
Well, it's a big investment for some people first.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're there to help them and like, answer questions and try to make sure they're getting like consistent results every time. And so it's predictable as possible, and like how they do that and what are the different papers. And if you print on this paper, what does it look like versus this paper? Like why? But it's all fun, but it is very human based and relationship based for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. What do you like to do when you're not creating photo app and taking and running a print business?
Yeah, just sleep is number one. That's always a good time. It's a very thing. It varies. It's obviously hang out with like family, like my wife or kids. We live out on 5 acres, so sometimes it's like yard work. If I'm not working on the business, it's like I got something here to do on the yard I got to work on. But yeah, I'm a big American football fan. Movies, TV shows at times is always great to like wind down. When I do have time, traveling is always a great way to, I love getting away, just traveling, seeing new places, eating new food, and all
Sure.
of that's always super refreshing for me. So it varies. I work really hard, but I try to also maintain I think it's maintain a healthy lifestyle to where you're somewhat active and getting enough sleep and all of that. I can't run on 5 hours of sleep. I'm just not that person.
Yeah, fair enough.
Got to get 7 or 8, or I'll get sick or something. So it's not worth it.
Fair enough. Are there any landscape photographers out there that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Oh gosh, there's a ton on photo. I'm not thinking my phone out. Jake Case? Jack Case? Jake Case. Have you talked to him?
I think I've come across his work. I'm sure of that.
If he photographs a lot of stuff in the southwest
Yeah, yeah.
of the United States. Let's see, is it Jack? I'm trying to remember here. Yeah, Jake, Jake Case. I feel like his stuff of this kind of American Southwest is really beautiful. Yeah, I'd have to go through, but yeah, there's a bunch on photo. I don't typically have them memorized off the top of my head because I'm running across so many people all the time. I interviewed a guy up in the Pacific Northwest, John Moore. He did a lot of landscapes, but his stuff's a little more human like impact on landscape. And so there's like usually abandoned houses or power lines falling, whatever. So it's
all part of landscape as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. So it's the landscape, but it's like how humans have interacted with it and affected it. So yeah, John R. Moore is great. I just had him on our podcast recently. But he's definitely worth talking to. But yeah, those would probably be the two off the top of my head. But I could go through photo and probably give you a million more.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. It's been really good talking to you, Michael, and finding out a lot more about photo and yourself. Do you want to promote so that people can find both the photo app and various other bits and pieces?
Yeah. Yeah. Really, the main thing is just definitely just download photo, try it out. photoapp.co. We're doing like a global photo walk event, but we'll be adding more photo walks in the future with photo, something we want to do. And so there's a tab on our website for that information. We want to help people meet in person and get out and build a community in real life a bit and not just be on the app itself, but we want to facilitate some in-person events also. But yeah, definitely download photo, try it out, and just, pay attention to any of the walks we have coming up in the future. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on and your interest in what we're doing. And I love what you're doing. So this has been great.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have you used the photo app? Leave a comment below and let me know. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com, along with prints and photography gear. I'm also on Vero, Photo, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget to comment and subscribe because it really helps get the podcast out there. I'm Grant Swinburne. I hope to see you out shooting soon.